a teacher, biologist, obstetrician, gynecologist, husband, father, grandfather, church elder, health director, and organist. In addition to being published in peer-reviewed medical journals in his specialty and authoring medical education programs on health literacy, he has also lectured and is an active speaker on issues related to health literacy, healthcare disparities, and diversity in medicine. He is the recipient of numerous citations and awards. Despite his hectic schedule and numerous engagements and appointments, Dr. Haynes still finds time for the work of the Lord. A committed member of the Hanson Place Seventh-day Adventist Church, he served as the chairperson of the church's 50th anniversary committee and spearheaded the publication of Singing in a Strange Land, the Hanson Place Seventh-day Adventist Church, 1958 to 2000, authored by Dr. Glenn O. Phillips, a renowned historian and an alumnus of the University of the Southern Caribbean. Dr. Haynes is a son of the Caribbean, born in Barbados. He has been married for 42 years. He has been married for 42 years to the same woman, the lovely Claudette Haynes. I'm going to ask you to stand at this time so you can see his very beautiful and charming wife. And of course, we all know that behind every good man is a better woman, with whom he has one daughter, Caril, and one granddaughter, Zara. Graduating class of 2011, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dr. Milton Haynes.
Dr. Eugene Daniels, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, University of the Southern Caribbean, and Mrs. Daniel. Dr. Gardner, President of the University of the Southern Caribbean, and Dr. Patricia Gardner. Members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the University Board of Directors, University Vice Presidents and Directors, faculty, staff, and alumni, graduates, members of the media, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me thank Pastor Woodford for his wonderful introduction, Pastor Liverpool for his introduction. And this is the last opportunity that I will have to speak here at this university. And so I would really want to thank Dr. Daniels and Dr. Gardner and this great institution for the honor bestowed upon me by inviting me to be the commencement speaker for this great graduation exercise of the class of 2011. I arrived in Trinidad on Friday, and ever since then I've been given the royal treatment. In fact, as I was driving through campus today, I had the urge to give the royal wave, but my wife pulled my hand quickly down. But we've really been treated royally here at the University of Southern Caribbean. There are no mountains in Barbados. There are no mountains in New York City. So it was a great treat to be staying on Mountain View and looking up and seeing the mountains of Trinidad. And so I really want to thank this great university for giving me this opportunity to be here not as a casual visitor, but as your keynote speaker for commencement. You know, I kept wondering, why would I be invited to be the keynote speaker at this commencement? And I only found out today, because in this class, right here before me, there is a set of twins. There's also a male nurse, so I guess it's only obvious that you'd have an obstetrician present to speak to you. So again, I really want to thank you all and all who have contributed to making my visit and stay here, and that of my wife, such a wonderful experience. I don't have the great honor and privilege to call myself an alumnus of University of the Southern Caribbean, but this institution has been a part of my life from early childhood, so to speak. Many of my acquaintances from early childhood came over to Trinidad and became graduates of this institution. Many of my relatives, 3 uncles and numerous cousins, are graduates of this institution. As a physician, one of my mentors, one of my greatest supporters and mentors is my uncle, Dr. M. Alfred Haynes, who is also a graduate of this institution. He is now approaching 90 years in age and has reached the peak of his career. A few years ago, he was inducted into the Society of Scholars at Johns Hopkins University, a very prestigious institution, where he was the first black professor at that institution. Just a month ago, I had the opportunity to travel to Nashville, Tennessee, to a special conference and inauguration of the Dr. M. Alfred Haynes Institute for Social Justice that was started by Meharry Medical College in honor of the great contributions that my uncle made to medicine, not only in the United States, but around the world. And I tell you that story simply to let you know that it was right on this campus that he got his foundation, that he got his beginnings. Many of your former presidents of this institution are individuals with whom I have had very close relationships. I won't bother to list the names of all of them, but right on this building, there's the Archbold, I think, Fine Arts Center. Pastor B.L. Archbold was a great friend of the family, and in fact, shortly after my brother was born, he visited our home and fell in love with my little brother, baby brother, and requested that he be named after him. My brother is also a physician, Dr. Vincent Archibald Haynes. And Archibald is after former president of this institution, Dr. Pastor B.L. Archibald. Again, I can list the many ways that this institution has impacted my own life. Many of my pastors are graduates of this institution. In 2008, I had the opportunity to chair the 50th anniversary committee of the church that I attend, the Hanson Place Seventh-day Adventist Church, which was founded by a small group of graduates of this institution. The majority of the founding and charter members of that church are graduates of this institution. And one of the things we did was to commission the publication of a book that outlined the history of the Handsome Place Church, how it was started by graduates of CUC, how Caribbean immigrants migrated to New York and to North America, and the contributions they made to ministry and other areas of work in North America and around the world. The author of that book is a graduate of this institution, Dr. Glenn O. Phillips, who is currently professor of history at Morgan State University. And so, as you can see, however I turn, this institution has had a profound impact on me. And this morning I presented copies of this book to the chairman of the board and to the president of the university. And this is the book that was published, Singing in a Strange Land. And if the librarian from the Eugene Ford Library or the Dr. Carlington Simmons special collection are here, I would be happy to present on behalf of our church copies of Singing in a Strange Land for the libraries. Thank you very much. A specially signed copy for the Eugene Ford Library here at the university. And we also have a copy for the Dr. Carlington Simmons Library. Oh, also you. Thank you very much. Well, class of 2011, you've made it. Your years of study and hard work, coupled by the financial sacrifices of your parents and others, have brought you to this point when you can say with joy and with pride and with your shoulders held high, I am a graduate of the University of the Southern Caribbean. I looked through the list of the graduates, and some of you are graduating summa cum laude. Some of you are graduating magna cum laude. Some of you are graduating cum laude. And a good large number of you are graduating thank you, Lordy. Anyhow, regardless of how you're graduating, I'm sure we all want to give thanks to our Lord. We also want to give thanks to God for making it possible for you to have reached this point, and for all the blessings that He has bestowed on you as you journeyed along this academic path. Today, as you grasp your degrees in your hand and prepare to walk away from this building and from the 384 acres of land and flora in the beautiful Maracas Valley, I hope that you will pause, look back, and ponder the fact that today is not the end. No, not the end, but the beginning. A commencement of a brave new world of experiences, a brave new world of challenges. I know that you're very happy. I know that you're very excited. You are surrounded by loving friends and family. You are very anxious to celebrate your success. However, I have traveled from New York to Trinidad to serve you with an international arrest warrant. I have come to serve you with an international arrest warrant. And if you think this is some big joke or I'm not serious about it, I brought along some handcuffs. This warrant has on it 3 words. Wanted, your mind. Wanted, your mind. Please note that what is wanted by the world community is your mind, not your brain. You see, everyone has a brain that is essentially the same. It's a tangible, 4-lobed, soft mass of tissue that is encased by hard bone, the cranium, and weighs about 3 pounds. There are 300 billion neurons in the brain, which is like a master computer that controls every aspect of our lives. The mind, however, is not matter and is not tangible. It is thought, perception, reason, will, emotion. It is intellect and the intellectual power. It is a private world that we enjoy within ourselves. Unlike the brain, which is confined by space and protected from external forces, the mind is exposed to all the forces of nature and our environment. And the mind is not static, it is elastic. Tryon Edwards, the 19th century theologian, noted that there's nothing so elastic as the human mind. Like imprisoned steam, the more it is pressure, the more it rises to resist the pressure. The more we are obligated to do, the more we are able to accomplish. Let me repeat that. The more we are obligated to do, the more we are able to accomplish. During your sojourn here at USC, the faculty has provided you with tools to master and utilize facts and figures, processes and concepts in a variety of academic areas. That fund of knowledge is safely stored in your brain. You have read the textbooks, you have passed your exams, and will soon be able to add a few letters behind your name. Now your soon-to-be alma mater, your community, Trinidad, the nations of the Caribbean and the world want and need your mind. How will you use your mind? In Eastern wisdom, the mind is noted to be a powerful and mysterious force that can make the best of the worst and the worst of the best. And my question to you is this: how will you use your mind? Will you use your mind to make the best of the worst? Will you use your mind to make the best of the world and to contribute the best to the world? Now, I said I brought you an arrest warrant, but it comes with a stipulation. The stipulation is that you will be given unrestricted freedom to walk away from this campus, provided you agree to commit to any one of the following. 1, make a contribution to the body of knowledge within your area of academic interest. Or 2, make a contribution towards solving some of the troubling issues in our world. Or 3, simply encourage, affirm, and make at least one person happy each day from this day forward. You have your choice. You have your pick. Tsunetsuburo Magiguchi, who is a Buddhist philosopher and educator, wrote the following, and I quote: "The essence of education is not to transfer knowledge. It is to guide the learning process. to put responsibility for study into the student's own hands. It is not the piecemeal merchandising of information. It is the bestowal of keys that allow people to unlock the vault of knowledge on their own. It does not consist of pilfering the intellectual property amassed by others through no additional effort of one's own. It would rather place people on their own path of discovery and invention. Let me repeat that last sentence because I want it to sink in. It does not consist of pilfering the intellectual property amassed by others through no additional effort of one's own. It would rather place people on their own path to discovery and invention. I have no doubt that the faculties of the schools represented here this afternoon have given you all the appropriate tools and have placed each one of you on your own path to discovery and invention. Now, will you allow your mind to expand and to be creative, and yes, to really dream the impossible? For thousands of years, separating babies that were joined at the head and that would survive was an impossible surgical exercise. But a young black Adventist surgeon, Dr. Benjamin Carson, came along, dared to dream the impossible, and in 1987 successfully separated the Binder Siamese twins from Germany in an operation that lasted 22 hours. The procedures and surgical techniques that he developed for this and other neurosurgical procedures are monumental contributions to the body of knowledge in his field of neurosurgery. I am delighted that this university is making research an integral part of its academic life, is publishing a journal of research, and has appointed Dr. Noel Brathwaite, a fellow Barbadian, to provide leadership in this area. I'm particularly happy to hear from the president today that this university will be devoting funds towards areas of research. It is universally recognized in academic circles that research is a critical component in determining the quality and the stature of a university. Some of you may be going on to graduate school here or in other institutions in the Caribbean or overseas. But I will encourage you to use your mind to make a contribution to the body of knowledge within your area of academic interest. We live in a world today that is still ravaged by poverty and disease. In spite of the advances of science and technology, the basic necessities of life and the living are still lacking in many parts of our world. 30 years ago, on April 13, 1981, a manned space shuttle, Columbia, orbited the Earth 37 times and returned to Earth on April 15, 1981. On July 20, 1969, the world listened as Neil Armstrong uttered the words, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," as he became the first man to walk on the moon. Class of 2011, what will be your one small step for the men and women, boys and girls of Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Grenada, St. Lucia, the Caribbean, or the world? How will you use your mind to enhance and enrich the quality of life for the people of the Caribbean? The Caribbean and the world are in need of innovative and creative ideas and new paradigms to address the socio-economic, educational, political, and healthcare needs and the problems of the peoples of the African diaspora. Are you prepared to make a meaningful contribution to the discourse and to the solution? Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream on August 28, 1963. And his dream was that his 4 children would one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Even though his dream has not been translated into full actuality, we can still find solace in the historical fact that in 2008, enough people in the United States were more moved by the content of his character and intellect than by his color, and elected a black man, Barack Obama, to be the President of the United States. Dr. King used his mind to make a monumental contribution towards finding a solution for racial and socio-economic issues that continue to confront people of color throughout the world. As you walk away from this campus today, I will urge you to look around you and find some area to which you can direct your mind and make a contribution, however small, towards solving at least one of the troubling issues that negatively impact the lives and daily living of our brothers and sisters. Throughout the Caribbean, there are numerous sociological, educational, political, socio-economic, religious, and ethical issues that are begging for creative thought and analysis. There are many fertile areas that are yearning for young, bright minds to devote in-depth study and research. If properly done, the results should bring about changes that would have a lasting impact on the quality of life of Caribbean people, and not only Caribbean people, but people around the world. Now, so far I've mentioned a number of names, and there might be someone who is saying, well, you've only listed men. What about women? There are large numbers of women in this class. Well, I'm getting to that, and I'm happy for that. But before, let me give you some of my bona fides as it relates to being in contact with women. After leaving Harrison College, I taught at Queen's College, which is the leading girls' school in Barbados, where some of the brightest minds go for their secondary education. As you heard, I've been married to a bright, articulate Jamaican female for about 42 years. I have one daughter and one granddaughter who at the age of 9 is teaching me things that I didn't know. For 42 years, I have been an obstetrician, gynecologist, have been taking care of the health needs of women and articulating and advocating their causes and their concerns. So, with that background, with that vast experience, with that knowledge, I can say with a great measure of confidence that, and listen to me carefully, there is nothing that a man can do that a woman cannot do better. The mind of a woman often baffles both analysis and comprehension by men. However, let it be fully and clearly said and understood that women are also included in my arrest warrant, and that the stipulation is the same. There is a Jamaican woman by the name of Dr. Patricia Smith who is credited with being the first person to discover a new way to repair damaged nerves. Her original work, which was done at Harvard University and which she is continuing in her lab in Canada, led to the discovery of the SOCS3 molecule, which blocks the body's ability to replace and repair damaged nerves. In the absence of this SOCS3 molecule, the damaged nerves were able to regenerate themselves in an adult. She is now looking at ways to functionally repair damaged nerves following spinal cord injuries and following brain injury. So we have this black Caribbean woman who is making a monumental contribution through her research to the fund of knowledge in her professional discipline. Before there was a Martin Luther King, there was a Rosa Parks, a woman with a mind of steel who refused to give up her seat in the front of the bus to take a seat at the back. Is your mindset such that you will be willing to sacrifice your rights, privileges, God-given talents, and your mind on the altar of racial and social prejudice, socioeconomic expediency, or even political or religious bigotry? The Caribbean and the world also needs the mind of women who can be CEOs, chief executive officers, presidents of organizations, presidents of universities, presidents and prime ministers of countries. And yes, if I may even say this here on campus, ordained ministers and presidents of conferences. After listening over the weekend to the excellent baccalaureate address presented by Pastor Claudette Andrews, if I had any doubt in my mind, that doubt vanished. And I'm sure that the day will come when women will begin to think the impossible. And we will have conference presidents who are women, and yes, even the president of the General Conference who would be a woman. Dream the impossible. Let me tell you a story that I find very heartwarming. This is a story of two men, both seriously ill, who occupied the same hospital room. One man was allowed to sit up in his bed for an hour each afternoon to help drain the fluid from his lungs. His bed was next to the room's only window. The other man had to spend his time flat on his back. The men talked for hours on end. They spoke of their wives and families, their homes, their jobs, their involvement in the military service, and where they had been on vacation. Every afternoon when the man in the bed by the window would sit up, he would pass the time by describing to his roommate all the things he could see outside his window. The man in the other bed began to live for those 1 hour periods where he would see the whole world before him. Ducks and swans playing on the water, children sailing their model boats, young lovers walking arm in arm amidst flowers of every color of the rainbow. Grand old trees graced the landscape, and a fine view of the city skyline could be seen in the distance. As the man by the window described all this in exquisite detail, the man on the other side of the room would close his eyes and imagine the very picturesque scene. One warm afternoon, the man by the window described a parade passing by. And although the man could not hear the band, he could see it in his mind's eye, as the gentleman by the window portrayed it with descriptive detail. Days and weeks passed. One morning, the day nurse arrived to bring water for their daily baths to find the lifeless body of the man by the window, who had died peacefully in his sleep. She was saddened and called the hospital attendants to take the body away. And as soon as it seemed appropriate, the other man asked if he could be moved next to the window. The nurse was happy to make the switch, and after making sure that he was comfortable, she left him alone. Slowly and painfully, he propped himself up on one elbow to take his first look at the world outside. Finally, he would have the joy of seeing it all for himself. He strained to slowly turn to look out the window beside the bed. And lo and behold, it faced a blank wall. The man asked the nurse what would have compelled his deceased roommate to describe such wonderful things outside this window. The nurse replied that the man was blind and could not even see the wall. Perhaps he just wanted to encourage you, she said. Perhaps he just wanted to encourage you, she said. The blind man had a brain. He had a supercomputer in his head, but was unable to see. It was his mind that made it possible for him to see the impossible, and in doing so, it brought joy, it brought happiness, it brought encouragement to his sick roommate. You may not be a great researcher. You may not have the knack for solving problems. However, each one of you can, at a minimum, bring about joy, happiness, encouragement, affirmation to at least one person with whom you may come in contact. There's an old hymn that I loved as a little boy. It's no longer in our church hymnal, but many of you, I'm sure the older folk, know it. If any little word of mine may make a dark life brighter, if any little song of mine may make a sad heart lighter, God help me speak the helping word and sweeten it with singing, and drop it in some lonely vale to set the echoes ringing. If any little love of mine may make a hard life sweeter, if any little care of mine may make a friends the fleeter, God help me speak the helping word and sweeten it with singing, and drop it in some lonely vale to set the echoes ringing. Class of 2011, your university, your family and friends, your community, your country and your world all need your mind, your thoughts, your ideas, your creativity and innovation. You too can be a Dr. Ben Carson. You too can be a Dr. Martin Luther King. You too can be a President Obama. You too can be a Patricia Smith. You too can be a Rosa Parks. But even if you do not follow in the footsteps of any of these aforementioned individuals, you can still be like that blind man in the hospital bed, and you can still use your mind to bring joy, happiness, and encouragement to someone who needs it. You too would also be counted among those who have contributed to the betterment of our world. That little word, that little song, that little love, that little care can make a big difference in our world. I conclude with these immortal words from Mahatma Gandhi. Keep your thoughts positive because your thoughts become your words. Keep your words positive because your words become your behavior. Keep your behavior positive because your behavior becomes your habits. Keep your habits positive because your habits become your values. Keep your values positive because your values become your destiny. Class of 2011, it is how you use your mind and your thoughts that will determine your destiny and determine how your path through life ends after you leave the hallowed academic corridors of this university. I urge and exhort you to respond positively to my arrest warrant, to stop, think, ponder the world around you, accept the stipulation that was presented. 1, make a contribution to the body of knowledge. Let your creative juices of your mind flow. 2, commit yourself to making a contribution towards making this world in which we live a better place. Have a purpose in life and have a purpose for living. 3, encourage, affirm, and help at least one person each day. Allow your mind to explore new ways of poking holes in the darkness and be a light to the Caribbean and the world at large. Today, as I give my final words to this class, it is my hope that as you leave this university, you will leave with changed minds. Minds that are creative and innovative. Minds that are not afraid of the black hole of the unknown. Minds that can still build pyramids. Minds that create joy and happiness. Minds that, like Napoleon, consider the word impossible to be the adjective of fools. Dream the impossible. Hold fast to your dream and never allow the enemy of self-doubt to destroy them. But above all, ladies and gentlemen, class of 2011, above all, surrender your mind to the mind of God. If you do, and when you do, success is inevitable. So again, congratulations, class of 2011. Guess what? You're free. Go out, and make this world a better place. Thank you.